Welcome to Speropictures podcast, where we focus on the stories and not the headlines.
Because we believe that stories can change the world.
Get ready because the show starts now. On this episode of Speronomics, we're going to be talking about, is 2023 the year for gold?
And the former Russian president just came out with some crazy predictions for 2023.
Lastly, is silver still a good option to buy in 2023?
And as always, we're going to talk about this with Kirk Elliott, PhD squared. Welcome to a new episode of Speronomics.
Welcome back to Speronomics. I am your host / co-host, Joy Thayer.
And I am Matthew Thayer, also known as Mr. Joy. We are going to be hanging out with Dr. Kirk, who is a extraordinary double PhD squared, very smart guy. And we were going to talk to him a little bit about some of the questions that we have going into 2023.
Right.
What is going to be happening economically? What are some of his predictions? What are the things that he's been listening to? Because that's what's really great about tapping into some of these amazing minds, is that we don't always have the ability to keep our hands on the pulse of everything, right? Because there's so many things going on in the world. And so having those wise counselors like Dr. Kirk, who people can access at sperogold.com and access his team, is one of the best things that you can do when it comes to finances, because he does keep his finger on the pulse of economic news and things like
he
that.
Does.
So
we are so excited to welcome Dr. Kirk to the show. Happy 2023, Dr. Kirk.
You know, right?
Well, happy new year. Yes. And it's going to be a great year. I mean, it really is. And so literally, Matt and Joy, most of the people that call me are just gripped with fear right now. Because if you look at the news, it doesn't look pleasant. It's awful. And I think 2022, as it wound up, and we're looking at what's in store for us now, it's almost like the table was being set for what's going to happen in 2023. Right now, we're just waiting for the guests to arrive. But economically, socially, politically, as bad as it was, I think it was just preparing the stage for the show that was going to start here in 2023, which is really an abysmal one with everything. It really is. I mean, for example, you all and I have been talking about inflation for a while on this show. Well, over the holiday, we were up in Breckenridge and we needed some eggs, right? And I don't really do much of the grocery shopping in my family. My wife, Jolene, does. And so I went, though, to Walmart and up there, and it's like, couldn't find the eggs. And there was like, everything was like off the shelves. But they had a dozen of like the cheap version, Walmart version of the eggs. Well, I remember 2 years ago, they were maybe $1.29 for a dozen, sometimes like 99 cents. But they were $5.98 for a dozen eggs.
For the cheap ones.
Those are the cheap ones. Those weren't the big. They weren't the organic ones. They weren't the free range ones. I mean, just the cheapest eggs you can find. And they're almost $6, right? It's like, man, prices have tripled. And I'm thinking about most of America right now, because of the policies coming out of DC, which are causing inflation. People are forced with these horrible questions of, well, do we feed our family or do we pay our rent, right? What are we going to do? We can't even heat our house, let alone pay the rent or travel or do anything, right? It's just living at the margin, right? And it impacts the lower income, lower middle class the most, but it really impacts everybody because everything is going through the roof. These inflation pressures are not going to slow down, Matt and Joy. They're not, because Congress, the lame duck Congress, just passed a $1.7 trillion spending bill. I was like, oh, good grief. So I wouldn't have as much of an issue with the spending bill if we happen to have $1.7 trillion laying around, right? Then we just be appropriating what we have and putting it to the right spot. But the reality is they don't have that money. They have to print it out of thin air because tax revenues are coming down. They're not going to get it through taxation. People aren't working. Wages are coming down. People aren't spending money. So sales tax revenues are down. I mean, everything is coming down as far as government revenues are concerned. And they just passed one of the biggest spending bills ever
Right.
with money that we don't have. So what does that mean? It means that 2023, this lame duck Congress, who's not, some of them aren't even going to be around. They basically said, and this should be illegal. I mean,
It
seriously,
should. It should.
let the people who are in Congress determine how they're going to spend the money, not the ones that are going out, because those people are going to have to face the music for this spending bill. So it's just ridiculous to me. But we're in this stage in economic history and in U.S. history where the imbalances are becoming so great that you now have to pay the piper, right? We have to face the music for decades of mismanagement.
Right. And I mean, we've been printing so much money and we've gotten in so much debt. Where do you think the IMF is going to come in this year?
Well, I think they're going to come in through I would say the oversight of central bank digital currencies, right? Because this is the move that they are making to try to fix things, right? So like I tell my kids, every choice has a consequence. Good choices have good consequences. Bad choices have bad consequences, right? Well, the central bank digital currency, they're going to promote it and market it as the end all be all savior to our economic collapse, right? They're going to help fix it because there's going to be transparency and everything else. Well, it's you and I have talked about this a bunch. This has nothing to do with anything other than people control, right? But so this is what they're going to bring in. The IMF is going to be basically overseeing a lot of this central bank digital currency globally. But the table set is changing, right? So just last week, right before New Year's, you've got this battle that's waging globally for economic supremacy, and that's the BRICS nations versus the Western financial system, right? So the BRICS being Russia, Brazil, China, India, right now Saudi Arabia coming into the fold, and all kinds of other countries. What did Saudi Arabia just do? Well, they just basically, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia on like the 29th bought the largest share. He's now the largest shareholder of Credit Suisse, big Western financial system bank, right, in Europe. So they bought 9.9% of the Swiss bank. Who's the second largest shareholder? It's BlackRock at 5%. So you've got this now diversification out of the BRICS nations, which have their own SWIFT system for international settlements and wires. They've got all this consortium of countries to actually make them a superpower bloc economic powerhouse, right? They're the manufacturing superpower of the world. They have a large military. They've got nuclear capability. Their central bank digital currency, they're dangling this carrot out there to try to have people say, hey, put it in our CBDC, which is backed by gold. Yep. So the BRIC nations want to back their central bank digital currency with gold. Well, here's what I say about that. It's like, people say, well, Kirk, don't you want that? You always talk about a currency should be backed by gold. Yes, all else being equal, I love a currency that's backed by gold, but not when the currency happens to be a central bank digital currency, right? Because that's complete loss of privacy and freedom. So what they're doing is using something good to dangle this carrot out there to get people to invest in it, because all else being equal, if you were investing in currencies, if I were investing in currencies, would you want the one where the dude in the gray jumpsuit can just go to the printing press and press the button and print it out of thin air and devalue it?
Right.
Well, no, not if there's one that's backed by gold. So here's the trick. It's this enticing, sparkly thing that will say, hey, people, invest into our CBDC. It's backed by gold. It's safe. It's amazing. But once you get there, it's ultimate loss of freedom and privacy via programmable money and the ability to cut you off. Some bureaucrat somewhere saying, well, boy, Matt and Joey, we don't like your digital social profile. You can't buy our stuff. So this is the danger, but they're using something good to entice people to come in, right? Because this is what they're doing. And this is where they're playing this game very, very smartly. I think the BRICS nations are playing this game smartly because we're talking about 2023 and what I believe is coming. Well, there's some weird things. I mean, I'm talking uber weird things that just happened in the last week of the year. And the spending bill of $1.7 trillion doesn't even come into compute on the weirdness scale. So on December 27th, Dmitry Medvedev, former president of Russia, and he's now Putin's top advisor, came out with this eerie set of predictions for 2023. I mean, they were creepy. Everything, and you and I both know you can't believe everything you hear on the internet, right? Take it all with a grain of salt. It's just somebody's opinion, right? But this somebody's opinion was the former president of Russia, but still, there's a lot of political speak in that. So you can't believe everything that's ever said. Anytime. I never do, right? But because some of the stuff that he said was a prediction. China or California and Texas were going to secede from the United States, and there was going to be a civil war in America. So, all right, well, I can kind of see that if it's economically based. There's going to be places that don't want to be part of the central bank digital currency system, because the Civil War was not about slavery. It was about the banks. Mm-hmm. That's what caused the Civil War, the North and the South. It was the Confederate dollars, was the Northern banking system, right? So then he also said that the United Kingdom was going to rejoin the European Union, and the euro was going to go away. It's like, okay, well, prediction, bold. I wouldn't say something like that, but maybe he knows something that we don't know. He also said that Western Ukraine was going to be occupied by Poland and Hungary, and Western Ukraine was going to be occupied by Russia. He has to say that, right? Russia's at war with Ukraine. He's not going to say they're going to lose, right? So there's some stuff you say, okay, what is this? But the one thing that he said that gave me pause, huge pause, was when he was talking about oil, because oil is the largest producer, or Russia's the largest producer of oil in the world. So when they start talking about oil and gas, it's like, all right, maybe we should listen, right? Because they know what they're talking about. Well, he said the price of oil was going to double to $150 a barrel in 2023. The price of gas was going to more than double from $2,100 per 1,000 cubic meters to 5,000. Well, however they measure the price of gas, right? Mm-hmm. It's so more than doubling. It's like, why would he say that? What does he know that we don't know, right? Mm-hmm. He's former communist leader, advisor to Putin. But they do know oil and gas. Mm-hmm. Here's what's weird. The very next day, literally not even 24 hours, on December 28th, Putin made a statement. And he said, hey, all you G7 nations out there that signed this accord on December 3rd, that capped the price of Russian oil at $60 a barrel, we're not going to sell you any more oil. Yeah. Because you have to realize, oil's at $79 a barrel. Why would he sell it to us for $60 if that's the cap? Well, he wouldn't. Right. And actually, we talked about this on the show back in early December. It's like, if I were Putin, I wouldn't sell any of those countries' oil and lose $19 a barrel. I just wouldn't sell it to them. Yep. I mean, it's just not wise business.
Just kind of dumb.
Yeah. And Putin makes those bold moves too. You know, he's like, you need me more than I need you.
And it's true. And he doesn't need the G7 nations, because they're part of the BRICS nations, and all of those countries are going to buy oil from Russia. Mm-hmm. China's their largest purchaser of oil, so they really don't need the West. Mm-hmm. So here's where he stuck it to us, and he said, you know what? All of you losers who signed that accord, talking about the industrialized nations in Europe, America, Japan, the G7 nations, starting February 1st, I'm not going to sell you any oil. So what does this do to the price? Largest oil producer in the world, right? Some of the largest consumers of oil in the world, zero supply. They're shutting it off, and yet demand is still up there. So that's going to cause the price to go through the roof. Mm-hmm. How about doubling, which is what Medvedev predicted was going to happen? So the day before Putin made this announcement, Medvedev said, hey, this was going to happen. So it makes me wonder if he knew anything else on that list is going to be real. I don't know, but all I'm talking about is oil. So for 2023, I view the inflationary pressures that are ravaging the world are going to get worse. Food inflation is going to get worse. The $5.90 per dozen eggs is going to continue to go up, because the fundamental policies that caused that inflationary pressure have not changed. They're going to continue on until something changes, which is going to take an act of Congress, or change in Congress, a change in presidency, to have policies of pro-growth again, which would be lowering interest rates, lowering taxes, and job creation, right? Until we have that, you're going to have printing like there's no tomorrow to fund the revenues that a growing economy would normally bring. You're going to have higher interest rates to slow down the inflation that's created by printing money like there's no tomorrow. There's issues that we're seeing in 2023 that the table was set for in 2022. We just haven't seen the fulfillment of all of that yet.
Yeah. So that makes me wonder if this year is the year for gold. You know, we've seen silver going up like crazy, but if all of these nations are buying our gold, and gold seems to be the same last year at this time as it is this year at this time, right?
It's up some, but so last year, if you look at the numbers across the board from January 1st until December 31st, right? The S&P 500 was down 10%. The NASDAQ was down about 33%. Silver was up 7% and gold was up a little bit, right? So, but you compare that, right? NASDAQ down 33, silver up 7. Well, that's a 40% difference. So if you had $100,000 invested, it's a $40,000 difference from being in stocks versus silver during that time frame. So, but what we've seen more in the immediate trend, which is the trend that we need to look at, because it's the policies, the politics, the economics that are actually moving the markets right now. In the last 3 months, silver's up 37% since September, up 37%. Gold's up about 11%, right? So you're more than tripling the rate of growth in silver compared to gold. Now, it's not that I dislike gold. I love it. And you're right. As countries start to bring in gold to back their currencies, it's going to build up that demand. However, it's going to take a little while for that to happen. In the meantime, if we allocate into silver and it's tripling the rate of growth of gold,
right,
when that time comes, see, it's not that gold is going to go down in price. It's going to continue to go up because the fundamentals that drive that growth are still there.
Yeah.
So we allocate into the one that's doing better, which is silver, by a tripling, not even a small amount.
Yeah.
We sell our silver maybe a year and a half from now, roll into gold, and I get you 2 to 3 times more ounces of gold then than I could today. Then you ride the trend line in gold out, because this is a compounding of ounces strategy that I've used for over 20 years, that you can just be in the right place at the right time. You identify the right place at the right time by looking at the ratio, the amount of silver that it takes to buy 1 ounce of gold. The ratio today just tells us silver's undervalued. Gold's not overvalued. Gold's going to continue to go up. But if silver's undervalued, it's going to play catch up, right? And this is how we can really maximize our wealth creation during times like this. And why, Matt and Joy, I can have a smile on my face given the horrible news that we've been talking about so far on the show, and this just engulfs everybody's hearts and minds, and be in the right place at the right time and smile about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were saying, people that made it through the Great Depression actually had the foresight to see some of this stuff. And they're saying that this is the worst economic downturn we've ever had in history, not in American history, like in history, And so we've had changing of nations and governments and different things in the past. But some of the stuff that has happened over the last several years have really led up to this moment. And so right now, like you said, why we can have a smile on our face is that God is giving us wisdom to have the foresight on what we can be doing for this next phase.
And can you talk a little bit about, because there's some people who hear like, oh, silver has gone up 37%, and it actually deters them from investing because they're like, oh, I missed it. And so can you talk a little bit about that to those people who, they might be hearing about this now, maybe they heard about it back then and now they're regretting and they want to get involved, but then they're thinking like, I'm too late.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too late. So I've been talking about, but it is up, right? It's up, but it's not too late because the fundamentals that drove that growth are still there. So there's Government Capital. It's an algorithm-based forecasting service for the mining industry. Issued a silver price prediction stating that it would close out 2022 at a potential average of $21.86 an ounce. Well, it didn't. It was like almost at $24 an ounce, right? So everything's outperforming that. And this is the algorithm that miners are using, right, to say, okay, where's the price of silver going? Well, they understated it. And they said that by the end of this year, silver is going to be $36 an ounce. By the end of next year, $75 an ounce, right?
Wow.
So it's like, so remember, they under allocated by 15% of what it was going to do in 2022. So things are growing faster. Now, this is kind of right in line with what I've been talking about, how silver is going to hit $75 to $100 an ounce over the next 1 to 1.5 years, right? So their time frame's a little bit longer and the price is a little bit different, but it's in the same ballpark, right?
Right.
And these are people that are telling miners what price they think it's going to be, so that miners can make decisions on, do we open up a new mine? You know, how much inventory do we release? Blah, blah, blah. So have you missed the boat? No, because even at 75, that's still tripling where we are today. A 300% gain in the next year to year and a half. That's incredible. Nobody's going to cry crocodile tears over that kind of return, Joy. Nobody. But imagine if some of the economists who are talking about silver, whether it's Bixby or Bo Polney, who I love, he's an awesome guy, thinking silver is $600 to $2,500 an ounce. Well, truly, my brain doesn't go that far. That's incredible. But man, one of the first times ever, it's like, I pray that I'm wrong, because I go to $2,500 an ounce, right? But I'd be happy with it tripling to quadrupling. Quite honestly, that's why I've said that over the last year or so. This is where I think it's going based on historical patterns. This is where I see it. But we're not in normal historical times right now. We're in complete political upheaval, complete economic upheaval. We're just colossally bad inflationary pressures. I mean, it is truly not looking good.
Right.
Well, but like you said, I mean, economics really is the study of choices, right?
Yeah.
And that, you know, it all comes down to personal and individual choice. And those that choose to protect themselves right now, I mean, you hate to say like, okay, you're going to benefit from the downturn, but that's what you do. You read the signs of the times. You listen to wise people who have done this before, and like you said, you have a track record.
Yeah.
You have a track record of anticipating some of these things and have done well. And so it would behoove people who are listening right now to, you know, to get some of your other investments into silver. You don't have to turn everything into silver. Those of you that you may want to, but somebody like Dr. Kirk and his team are going to help you make those decisions, right? Because it's all about choice. It's all about personal and individual choice. And so you can go to sperogold.com. You can also text or call the number in the comments below, and you make an appointment, and they're going to walk you through the process, and they're going to calm your fears. Like you said, you deal with people all the time that are afraid, and they get off the phone with you, and they feel better?
They make a plan.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's here's the thing. It's wild when you can hear somebody smile.
Yeah.
You know, just on the phone, you can hear a smile, and it's just touches my heart, because for people calling in that are afraid their retirements are going away, they're afraid that everything they've worked so hard to accumulate is going away. They don't know who to trust. They know that something is wrong, right? And they're talking to somebody who shares their faith, shares their worldview, doesn't listen to the mainstream media narrative, which is a bunch of phony sound bites, right? But yet the fundamentals and comes away with a strategy using alternative investments, tangible assets like gold and silver, getting out of the paper assets, because this is what they're used to hearing. They're used to hearing their advisors saying, hey, when stocks stink, you go into bonds. When bonds stink, you go into stocks. But here's the problem. They both stink at the same time right now.
Right.
There is no option for them, right? So this is, you're so stricken and weighed down with fear and that shackle and noose around their neck. They're thinking, there's no hope. We can't survive this. No. Don't let that spirit of fear dictate your decisions. It's a spirit, and we can kick it out, because there are things that we can do with wisdom and discernment and sound mind prudence that God gives us to navigate through this time successfully and thrive, right?
Yeah.
And thrive. This is the key, because God didn't create us to be survivors. He created us to be thrivers, right? And this is where I can have a smile on my face. And it's like, look, I don't like the news any better than anybody else does. It's awful. Can't really change it. But I don't let that dictate how I live either, because when there are things that we can do, you just take that bold decision, that one step, and change and go in the opposite direction, right? I mean, silver up 37% in the last 3 months while the stock market's been coming down. It's like, whoa, this is incredible. I can really have a smile on my face. I just didn't know where to look, right? Yeah. Well, now that you do, so take that move, get out of the path of this hurricane so we can use that wisdom and that discernment to be in the right place at the right time. And I'm not saying that gold and silver are the greatest things since sliced bread. At some point, everything peaks out. Gold will peak out, silver will peak out, just like stock funds, mutual funds, and real estate have, and they bottom out from time to time, right? So our goal is to not be fixated on just one asset, like, oh, silver is going to go up forever. No, it won't. Or gold's going to go up forever. No, it won't. But for the time being in the economy that we're living in, boy, we allocate into it and thrive, and we go into stocks and bonds, mutual funds, or whatever when the time is right. And that way, we can minimize our risk, maximize our return, be in the right place at the right time, the majority of the time, and that's how we'll win this battle.
Right. Yep. And right now, that's the most stable thing that people can do as we navigate all the craziness that's going on in the world. Because as they're trying to figure out the world global economics, and BlackRock is putting out their predictions for the next few years, gold and silver is the best investment still, especially right now, more than ever before. All right. So we thank you so much for educating us, taking all your time and wisdom and sharing it with our audience. And we are so blessed by you, and we can't wait to see you next week.
Amen. We'll talk to you soon.
God bless.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Did you know that MyPillow actually has way more than just pillows? I mean, of course, they have pillows, but they also have blankets, slippers, towels, travel pillows, dog blankets, mattresses, sheets, and even more pillows. So to check out all of the things that they have over there, go to speropillow.com and you'll get 66% off of your order today. But make sure that you use the promo code SPERO.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm excited to bring you my biggest bedding sale ever just in time for Christmas. Get my Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98. A set of pillowcases, only $9.98. Rejuvenate your bed with a MyPillow mattress topper for as low as $99.99. We also have blankets in a variety of sizes, colors, and styles. We even have blankets for your pets. Get duvets, quilts, down comforters, body pillows, bolster pillows, and so much more, all at the biggest discounts ever. I know my bedding products are perfect for you, and I'm extending my money-back guarantee for Christmas until March 1st, 2023, making them the perfect gifts for your friends, your family, and everyone you know. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code and you'll get huge discounts on all MyPillow bedding products, including my Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98. Get all your shopping done now while quantities last.